At the beginning, to the very beginning of this talk, I have decided to speak about knowledge of Allah. Because before we speak about these arguments that they will come to you, and some of them, they will appear to you almost instantly acceptable, logical, rational. There is an answer, there's a question that we have to previously answer. Is that how we have fallen so easily into this system? How is it that we cannot react? What has happened to us that before this matter, we find ourselves helpless? So, if we ask the people today, do you think riba is haram? The majority of the Muslims will say, it is haram. But if you ask again to the same person, what have you done against riba in the last week? They will say, nothing. And how about the last month? Nothing. What have you done in your whole life against riba? Nothing at all. And this is not a question of reason. It's a question of the heart. Riba is 70 times worse than sexual intercourse with your mother. There are several hadiths, several versions of the same, but more or less the same idea. You only need to open the eyes to realize this is a big problem. The kuffar, this is the tools by which the kuffar destroy the caliphate. This is the tools by which the United States remain consuming. The West consumes 80% of the wealth in the world, and the rest of the world has to live with 20. This is how they have managed throughout all this long to create a new colonialism based on the absurd idea that one country give us, some privileged countries give us pieces of paper with no backing, and we give them oil, aluminium, gas, etc., etc. Now, you don't need to be a genius to understand that under those circumstances, United States, and to a certain degree Europe, they have an advantage we don't have. We cannot go with a ringgit to Malaysia, to Europe, and say, give me a fridge. But they can come here and they can buy Petronas, the oil of us and the Arabs, and the palm oil and anything they want. They don't conquer us because they don't need to. They can buy it as long as we remain in the state we are. Here, what we are facing is, it's not a question of reason. It's not that we cannot understand that. It's that the heart, something has happened in the heart. If I say to any one of you, your sister is being raped outside the door right now, and then you answer me, okay, let me wait until the conference is over, and then I will deal with that. Then I will repeat it to you, because I would imagine you have not understood. I would say, but listen, I just said to you that your sister is being raped outside. No, I heard you perfectly. But let me, when the time comes, I will deal with it. Now you have to conclude that at that point, either the person doesn't understand the word rape. Maybe he doesn't understand. or otherwise, this man, the heart of this man is completely dead. Now you can say immediately after that you love your sister, and I will say, not a chance. You say, no, but I am a defender of women. Not a chance. Don't open your mouth about that subject. No, because I love Allah. Don't open your mouth on that subject. You have no idea the meaning of it. You see, the matter is not your reason. Ultimately, the matter stands on something much simpler, which is how do we face this affair? The issue is not that we don't understand riba, or we don't. The issue is that why are we paralyzed with fear before this matter? What is wrong with us that we cannot react and stop paper money tomorrow? What do we need the central bank for that it has been brought to us by the enemies of us? When we know riba is haram. What are we doing with the banks parading in our streets? What do we do? Paying interest rates to the IMF. What is Malaysia government doing with a 350% deficit, the national debt, against GDP? We are bankrupt. How we have let this thing happen? How can we then say that we fear Allah? How can you say that? When Allah has put this thing as in His expressed Himself very clearly, and He has put the gravity of this affair at the very heart of them in the Quran Himself. Not only declaring with clear words for those who have taqwa that riba is haram, but also saying, I have declared war. Harb min Allahi wa Rasuli, and Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Meaning us, anyone who loves Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is it not enough to see that the world is now dominated, entirely dominated, by banks? Is it not clear to you a small number of people own more wealth than it is conceivable to declare or to own or to account? It's not 1% owes 90%. It's that it is in terms of the money itself. The money. A figure that is so hard to account for that it's not possible to do the maths, because we are talking about amounts of wealth that they exceed the GDP of the world. Billions is nothing. It's trillions of dollars. The derivatives bubble is more than 3,000 trillion US dollars. The forex, the magical exchange of pieces of paper between nations, is in the region of 8 trillion US dollars per day. World trade, at most, the physical exchange of goods, as in physical goods, with physical people, the real trading of the entire world put together, it probably amounts in the region of 12 trillion. Maximum, probably less now. So in other words, it will take 1.5 days of forex in order to cover if everybody needs to exchange money. In 1.5 days of forex is all covered. The rest, the other 363 days, It's just nothing. Trading on nothing. Before this madness, we find ourselves helpless, unable to speak, unable to react. We want to take this opportunity in order to bring all the elements that you need to know, but it will be incomplete. I would have achieved nothing if you don't change your heart. If the heart is not changed, nothing will change. We don't have a problem because we don't understand riba. It's not the brain that is the problem. The brain can understand this is haram. It's the heart that paralyzes us. Unless we understand this condition, our fears, what drives us, and what we are driven from, love and fear, the two dynamics of the heart. Unless we understand this, we will not be able to move. It will be like speaking to a paraplegic and teaching how to run the 400 meters. But don't you see this person cannot move a finger out of fear? Don't you see that he doesn't want to look into this matter because he's incredibly uncomfortable? Because if bang negara is haram, then how about all the teachers that I have? Who say it's halal? They are hypocrites? Can I look at them and say, these people have been lying to me? If the central bank of Malaysia is haram, the ringgit is haram. Can you look at yourself and say, I have spent the whole of my life chasing these pieces of paper? Can you possibly say that? I've been full all my life, just like a carrot put before the donkey. I don't even know what a ringgit is. I've never asked. A ringgit is a silver coin. The rupee of Indonesia is a silver coin. The rupee of Pakistan is a silver coin too. When they promise, I promise to pay you 1,000 rupees or 1,000 ringgit or 500 ringgit. You are entitled to go to the central bank and say, pay me 500 ringgit. Try to do it. Try and see what happens. But no, you will not go. Because it's not your problem. That's a lot easier than dealing with it. All you have to do is, you put a hand beside you and another one on the other side, and just don't look into it. The problem with this solution is that as you keep going, the vision becomes more and more tubular. It becomes smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. There are things that you cannot look anymore. It's terribly uncomfortable to look and to say, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, dinars and dirhams. Boo, boo, boo. Doesn't exist. Souks, caravans, you cannot look at Islamic law anymore. And if you do, you only see banks and insurance. I don't know how they read, but that's what they see. But you cannot understand, you cannot accept the fact that if the central bank has come to us, the Malay nation, with the constitution is wrong. Because you cannot say that, because the next thing is that Malaysia is wrong. And then what do you do with, Malaysia tercinta? I'm not Malay. The next thing that comes to your mind is that, hold on a minute, there's no nationalism in Islam. Dar al-Islam means anyone who says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, is the citizen of my nation. Surprisingly, like Israel, is the only country in the world that doesn't follow this crypto racist nationalism that it was created by constitutionalism. Only in Israel. If you are any Jew in the world, it doesn't matter where you are, you go to the frontier, you say, I'm a Jew, you are a citizen of my country. They are not nationalists. We are. Divide and conquer, they've done it before. But can you tell to a Malay, Malaysia doesn't exist? Can you possibly have this conversation with a Malay, which I often do? He said, please tell me I speak with my friends. Can you look at the face of an Indonesian, and there are some here with us, look face to face and say to him, you are a foreigner to me? Can any one of you do that? My wife, istri saya datang dari Moa. She comes from Java. Her family are Japanese. She quite proudly, she tells me, we come from pirates. The boogies. I'm a quarter boogie. But she's Malay. But when I asked her this question, she said, no, I can't possibly. How can I call an Indonesian foreigner? My mother, my grandmother was born in Java. How many of us, our families come from Sumatra or Borneo? I mean, how many of us, on the other hand, have been left on the other side of the frontier in Patan, the Patanis? Are they Thais? Or are they not our brothers begging for help? They were thrown into the hands of a kafir regime, just like always the British do. And how about our brothers in Sulu? Are they any less than us? Are they not the only people among us of the Orang Malayu, of the people of Nusantara, the people who did not bow their heads? We did in Malaysia. These people didn't. Are we that for that reason? Look at them down like they are Filipinos because they want Sabah that belong to them. Are we not fallen for the most ridiculous of fantasies? And yet, we still cannot see. This matter of riba will not be dealt with just analyzing the matter rationally. It is not enough. It is necessary that you understand something fundamental about yourself. The state of your heart. This science has been known for centuries as the science of tasawwuf. The core of this science is marifatullah, is knowledge of Allah. Without this knowledge of Allah, you cannot acquire knowledge of yourself. Without this knowledge of yourself, you will not be able to acquire knowledge of the world. In other words, you will be looking at the world and you will be lost. You will be driven by whatever is common, by whatever is thrown to you, by whatever circumstances you leave yourself in. Only the heart will give you the capacity to critically analyze the matters, and only the heart will give you the courage to do something about it. And that's why this lecture will consist of an initial stage, which is what I'm going to dedicate this morning. More probably in the next section, I'm going to speak about knowledge of Allah and knowledge of the world. The focus here is to enter into a fantastic realm, a science that has been in Islam from the beginning, the science of tasawwuf. And you can say, if Muamalat has disappeared, tasawwuf has almost disappeared. Where are the Sufis, you will say? The founders of this nation were Sufis, we are told. Islam came into Malaysia and Indonesia by the hands of the Sufis. And in places like Jawa is celebrated. The names of these walis. And every year people go and visit them. To thank them. To ask Allah for them. In our payback. For we recognize that it was through their doing that Islam came to these lands in the first place. Now you have to ask, if these people were Sufis, where is Sufism? Where is the faculty of Marifatullah? Where is the faculty of Taqwa? Well, I mean, the first thing we will have to answer is what is that these people teach? For we will have difficulty in defining. Some people will simply say mysticism, which is like saying, what is riba? They say interest. No. It's not mysticism. Sufism is the supreme science, is the greatest science. Is the science of knowledge of Allah, which is the foundational knowledge of every other knowledge. It is the basis upon which I want to start to bring about an understanding of Muamalat, so that you recognize that what you are facing here is not an intellectual issue, but it's something to do with the condition of your heart. An amazing thing, the heart. By far more powerful than your hands. Your heart has more power than everything that you can do, with what you possess, with what you know, or what you can do. It can go farther. The heart can do things that they are unimaginable if you account for your own attributes. You can make something big small. You can make something small big. You can make something which is distant, bring it forward. You can make something which is oppressing you, throwing it back into the background. This is the science of the heart. This is the science that it will allow you to act. This is the science that it will allow you to recognize your fears. Fears. Everybody has fears. And you can only cure fear with fear. Fear of the world can only be cured with fear. With fear of Allah. Fear of Allah can overwhelm fear of this world. Fear of Allah will truly free you. Taqwa is freedom. And the same thing with love of Allah, love of dunya, the things that they lure, you find yourself lured to. Fighting to have a car 2 centimeters larger than your neighbor, or on a screen just 2 inches larger, to have a job with a little bit more dignity, to be praised, to be admired, fame, prestige, money, whatever it is that drives people. You cannot cure this drive for dunya with psychology. You can only cure love with love. Love of dunya can only be cured with the love of Allah. And this is a science about love of Allah and fear of Allah, that it will cure your heart. This is a science that it will allow you to recognize the state of your heart. This is a science that it will allow you to know what is happening to you, because my argument is, if you are not aware of your heart, you can be manipulated easily. These societies are run by fear. They control the people by fear. That's why they need Al-Qaeda. That's why Osama bin Laden is a tax revenue collector for the American Revenue Service. They need Osama bin Laden. The more Osama bin Laden that there is, the people pay more taxes, more willingly. They surrender more of their own rights. In the United States now they live in a prison. They have no rights. The government can go anywhere. inside their pockets, inside their houses. They can confiscate anything conceivable. Listen to the people that they're speaking over there. They did it thanks to fear. They did it with a war on terror, a terror that is self-generated. ISIS is created by them. It's a mask. They need fear. They're controlled by fear. But after a while, you don't even notice fear. The beauty of the West, the genius of the West, is to mask violence with reason. So they steal from you and they say, we do it because we want to civilize you. They bomb you and they say, this is because we love you and we want democracy for you. They steal, they rob, they hit us, they beat us, and they do it because they love us, they want to help us. And we say, yes, thank you, sir, kick me again. That's the genius of the West. The British master this. How to rob some people and still get them to smile at you. Is this fear upon which the people are manipulated? Taxation, according to Islam, is an act of violence. Only one tax, zakat. They just put GTS to you and nobody has complained. Like my sheikh used to say, the Europeans are so done that if tomorrow they bring the VAT another double it again, there would be complaint for 24 hours, but they will accept it. They have no will anymore. You have just been stamped with the tax of evil, and nobody has complained. You think, what a good idea, wawasan dwapolo dwapolo. Thank you, we are reaching to the dream of Dr. Mahathir. You don't even know what that means. You don't know what development means. Listen to the people of the developed world, that they are saying this doesn't work before you drag yourself any further into this madness. Show a little bit of critical sense. You haven't so far, but maybe you have a chance. This will not come for reason, for I cannot say you are not intelligent enough, you are more educated than your grandfathers. But the problem is taqwa. What has happened to you? Fear can only be cured by fear. Taqwa. Taqwa is not an idea. You say to the people, do you have taqwa? Yes, I have taqwa. And they just say, well, now, what do you think about the world? What do you act? What can you do? What needs to be done? They are shy. They cannot move. Because they have thousands upon thousands fears in their heads. They are not free. Taqwa is freedom. Taqwa is not rational. It's not a rational idea. You cannot understand it with reason. Because fear cannot be understood with reason. Because fear is above reason. The heart is above reason. This is something they haven't told you. It was known by your grandparents. But this is what they haven't told you. They tell you reason is everything. Reason is not everything. As we will go along later and we will see. Reason is limited. We are not that clever. By far our heart is our biggest organ of knowing. We know it from the literature, but we have lost track of it. We don't know what to relate to when we say the heart. We can get emotional about it, but we don't know its cognitive powers. Don't you understand that when you are under fear, cannot reason? If I give you a glass of water, and every time I give you a glass of water, I electrocute you. I put an electrical wire on you. And I do this thing repeatedly. The third time, when you see the water, you will not want to drink it. I have dominated your reason. You will explain it to you. No, I don't really want to drink. The same thing with love. Love dominates reason. That's why when somebody falls in love, you say, he's mad in love. He starts doing irrational things. He starts seeing his beloved everywhere. He breathes the air. He says, This is exactly how it smelled the day I first met her. This is the color that she was wearing that day. It dominates reason. You just start doing things that are crazy. The same thing with fear. You will do things that they are crazy. We are doing things that they are crazy. It's not because we don't understand. It's because we are sick in the heart. Now the thing is that there's no problem with being sick. Just as sickness in itself is just sickness. The problem is that we don't know how to cure ourselves from it. We cannot recognize the problem. We cannot do anything about it. We are ignorant on the matters of the heart. Please read the literature. It's in the Quran. Allah says the people whose heart has become like a stone. To soften in the heart, to polish the heart. You've heard expressions. You've read the literature. You've read the Sufi literature. Maybe you have sung it with your friends or your children. But what do you know on the subject? You cannot cure fear with reason. It's unlogical. What you can do is to give Prozac, which is what the psychologists do. You can make the people sleep. Don't think about it. You can only cure fear with fear, love with love. This is the meaning of taqwa, and this is the meaning of love of Allah. It's not just ideas. Like when you say to somebody, do you fear Allah? And the people say yes. No Sufi will ever say yes. I don't know any Sufi that if you ask him, do you have taqwa, he will say, no, absolutely, I'm trying to get. I'm struggling. Because everybody knows that there is more and more than everything that you have tasted. It's a path, the nature of which there is no end. It's a well where you can get water and water and there is still more. It's a path. That's why it's called tarika. You go into the path, you try to get more and more of it. The more you understand, the more free you become. You can think. For my argument is, if your heart is sick, you cannot think. You cannot think. You think you're thinking. You cannot think. I can give you a piece of paper, wave it in your head, and I tell you this is money, and you believe me. You cannot think. And I come with a US dollar and I say, give me everything you have, and you give it to me. Because you cannot think. Because you are scared. Not because you don't have a PhD, you may have a PhD. You know more than your parents, but your heart is more sick than your grandparents. Because we have told our children reason. Reason is what matters. But reason is foolish. With reason, you take the heart away, I can justify genocide for you. There are far too many people in the world. Let's kill a few. Hitler justified genocide. The Americans justified bombing the Iraqis, killing 100,000. There is a good reason. You go and talk them. They are not saying we are irrational. They haven't gone mad. I mean, they are so reasonable. Now the Muslims are saying, yes, thank you, America, for bombing us. It's not reason. It's a question of the heart. If you don't teach the people how to manage their heart, they can be easily manipulated. Did you understand? This science is called the science of ihsan. Islam, Imam, ihsan. The Sufis have said, our science is a science of knowing Allah, even though we don't know, we don't see Him. We know that He is watching us. It's a science of understanding the presence of Allah. And upon this idea, I will continue after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.